Welcome to another episode of Lost in the Script TV, episode 204. Man, oh man, hopefully y'all had a good 3 weeks. Being kind of hectic, got missing a little bit, but hopefully everything has been well with you and your families, and peace to y'all for the couple of weeks. Stress free. Hold on, y'all. Let me do a little test right quick. All right. Not gonna be able to be live long today. I should be fully back next week. But how y'all doing? I got Regina. How you doing? How you doing? A lot to get to. I'm gonna be honest, this episode is probably gonna be dedicated to talking about some stories that might be a little old now, but I do want to give my opinion on them. Hopefully y'all don't mind that. Obviously there is some current events we're gonna get to politically and socially. Hold on. I just gotta make sure everything's smooth. All right. We can get right into it. On the star of today's episode, Amanda Seales. Amanda Seales takes on 20 black conservatives in viral debate. Now, this is a few weeks ago, maybe a week or two ago. I can't remember exactly. Went viral, a bunch of clips of her and her views. I guess you would consider her leftist or what she considered herself to be some type of revolutionary. But she went on to the Jubilee YouTube channel where they sit somebody down in the middle and they have these talking points they have at the beginning, 4 to 5 talking points. And then they debate them versus people who obviously have opposite opinions. This one, her versus the conservatives. A few of these video clips in particular went viral. And she seems like she's in the middle of a rebrand, possibly. Another one. Another rebrand. But I'm going to make sure that I'm going to go back to some of the other things that she said over the last couple of years and how she's beginning to contradict herself, unless you believe the idea that people change and grow. But I don't really believe that. I think people form their opinions over time, but people who have strong opinions typically don't change them with age. That's not normally how that goes, but we're going to get into it. Let's get to this. Hold on. All right. Amanda Seales takes on 20 black conservatives in viral debate. The comedian and cultural commentator recently appeared on Jubilee, a popular YouTube series to tackle topics ranging from immigration to the sport wars. They talked about hip hop and its influence, particularly conservatives, who the talking point normally is, hey, we have music we listen to that preaches or at least pushes gang violence, drug use, disrespect to women, yada, yada, yada. And these things are more impactful or negative to our community than anything a Caucasian can do, at least in the year 2025. Amanda Seales has never been one to back away from verbal sparring. Her latest appearance on Jubilee, a popular conversational YouTube show, is no exception. The actress, comedian, and cultural commentator recently took part of a debate in which she sat down with 20 black conservatives, speed dating style, to voice their views on everything from immigration to the makings of black culture. Unsurprisingly, it made for interesting internet fodder, with social media onlookers voicing their support for Seales' ability to clearly articulate what many of them feel about the topics. One of the main things that she said, I would say that it was two, but one of them that blew up was this point right here. Amanda Seales calls out immigrants for undermining FBA experience. One ex-user said, I'm gonna play all these clips. She wrote in response to a clip, Amanda speaking about the Angolan American man, about the experience of black Americans in the United States. She ethered every so-called black conservative in the room. Black conservatives of today are not the same from yesteryears. Now, that point I agree with. The same way we can say the typical liberal or left-leaning person today isn't the same as they were in the 70s and 80s. It's just Both sides to me have obviously went further to their respective sides as far as on the left, people went more left and the right wingers went farther right. They separated even more, which lead to more extreme views on a lot of things. One of the many standout moments includes Seals acknowledging the core difference between Black immigrants and Black Americans. As a daughter of an immigrant, I'm gonna play the video. I'm not even gonna read what she said, and I'm gonna go ahead and go straight to some of these clips. Before I get to the clips and discuss the talking points, I want to make sure we know that there's an Asian man that owns this YouTube channel, this show. Now, he doesn't just do this with Black people. He's done this with pro-feminist, anti-feminist, pro-abortion, anti-abortion, all political ideologies you can think of. He's created this debate style format, which has been very successful over the last couple of years. So it's not nothing new. But the fact that we're having these intercommunal discussions once again on someone else's platform to be exploited for money, it should be tiring at this point. This is the type of stuff he's doing. Light skin and dark skin, Black men and Black women. This one was particularly nasty. The Black man, Black woman debate, because it kept changing the title. The first title I saw was, it had in parentheses, quotations, "I don't date Black men." So apparently they were saying that's one of the things the women said to the man. And then I saw one, "Black men don't protect Black women." They kept changing the title to get into the algorithm, obviously. But anything you think can light a fire or cause an argument, they used in the title. Hold on. But yeah, but that's expected at this point. But let's go ahead and get some of these videos. We'll start with this one here about hip hop and what this guy said in her response.
Look at rap. Look at what we're glorifying.
Right.
We're glorifying violence.
Who's we? Wait, who's we? Who's we? Who's
the Black community?
Who controls
the Black community?
Who controls the distribution of these sources of media?
And who takes it in?
And
who takes it in?
Listen, if you're okay, so let me put it in this context. If I have a company, right, and you guys are my employees, and I determine what you get to eat every day, that's also going to determine how you exist in this company, right? Like if you come to work and I say the only thing you can eat is processed foods and fried foods, and you're not going to get to have the best vegetables, etc. What's that going to affect? Your health. That's going to affect your ability to operate, etc.
This point don't really work in the analogy she's using, because to say that the boss is forcing you to eat these bad foods is not the same thing as the music industry. There are people making music that's not as low vibrational as the others. But the point is, you have to go look for it. It's the same thing with food. Now, we know that food deserts exist in this country, but for most cities, you have to go look for the food that's actually good for you. The same way you got to look for any type of entertainment that's not negative. You have to go find it. Now, you have to want to find it. Now, that's on us, whether or not we want to find the music or the entertainment, the movies we watch, the things we ingest entertainment-wise is up to us. Now, what tends to be the most popular, obviously what's on the radio, is what the label want you to listen to. But that don't mean you have to go find it on your own. Because the same songs that's big on the radio are big on the streaming platforms where you have to go find it. So it's not really a good comparison.
This is how the United States operates. There's a lot of us that don't want to admit that as much as accountable as we want to be, all of our brains also don't operate the same way. Some of us are much more apt to be indoctrinated than others. That's a fact. There is a 1% of people that knows this. There's a whole show called Mad Men that's about advertising, etc. And if we don't acknowledge multiple things at the same time, then we simply cannot stop it. We can be as accountable as we want. I hope that if you're right, because I hope you're right, I wish that it was a situation where if Black people could just be accountable, then nothing else would matter. But unfortunately, that hasn't been the case, because we have seen when we have Black Wall Street in Tulsa and we have Black Wall Street in Durham, that when we actually do hold our own and build our own communities, they will still come and run it down.
Look at
that was a checkmate at the end. That's a fact. What up, Kiefer? Hope we all has good with been good with you and the family. So she kind of did a good point in going against what he said there, and I agree for the most part. I didn't like the analogy there at the beginning, but we have to do this is why that lawsuit with Drake and UMG is one of the weirdest things where there's no side to, if you're a person who's just indifferent to all of this and you don't care, there's no side to really root for, because you don't want to root for a corporation or a label like UMG, because we know they've done thousands of artists rotten and stole money, and we know what they've done to people. But also on the opposite end, if you allow a lawsuit like that to go forward and possibly win, it could cause harm to creative rights or creative liberties when it comes to making music. Now, that could be possibly a good thing. You won't have to worry about labels allowing songs to come out of people dissing dead people. You won't have to worry about songs coming out of people or anything of that nature. But it also could be a thing used to stop you from critiquing public officials, whether it's politicians or entertainers. It could be a situation where it's a double-edged sword, where either way it could be a negative. Because if that lawsuit goes through, then the lawsuits from the parents of all these Chicago rappers' moms who passed away, the moms who have to hear their kids being dissed on songs, their sons' names being used in inflammatory ways, they may not have to hear that anymore. They can sue the label now for putting money behind music that is causing or fueling gang wars or turf wars in these neighborhoods. So it's a weird thing that there's really no right side to it. But let's go to this next one right here. This is the one that got people really angry.
Our resilience is happening now. I think growing, understanding the real problems, not going out and trying to protest against. You guys don't ever do this. KTS.
You
Dre,
guys don't ever do that.
KTS
Who is
Dre.
you guys?
Members of the black community that want to hold people accountable, especially black people. So KTS Dre was shot 60 times outside of Cook County, Chicago. How many BLM members came out? You earlier said BLM
Stop
is about
referring
police.
to me as you guys.
Okay, that's fine. So, for example, we had a really good example of this where it's not a police, because I remember you said...
Where are you from?
Where am I from? What do you mean by that? Like, what state am I from? Where was I born?
Where do you live right now?
I live in Florida. I was born in Angola, though. I was born in sub-Saharan Africa, okay?
Where did you grow up for most of your time?
In Maine. I lived in North America.
In Maine?
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, this is Amanda Seales, who for the last couple years have been dismissive and disrespectful. Well, I'll just say on the opposite side of the ADOS FBA thing. She's been against the delineation cause, or whatever you want to call it, movement, lineage thing, whatever you want to call it. And now she's using the "who are you," which is, I said, the biggest question the last 3-4 years has become, who are you? Where are you from? That has been reintroduced to people. Before I even listen to what you say, who are you? Why am I listening to you? Because once I know where you're from, I'll get some idea of why you're saying the things you're saying. So the fact that he's an immigrant, parents from Angola, who grew up in Maine, like, come on. And I did see a picture of him standing next to that right-wing dude, Charlie Kirk. And I immediately saw people saying that, oh, he's about to replace Candace Owens. Candace Owens has burned a few bridges, and this may be her replacement.
And what is the population of black people in the town that you're from?
It's really extremely low, but I grew up around black people, and there was a black community where I lived.
And that black community that you lived in, did they teach you about black history in the United States?
Like,
are your parents black American?
Yeah, my mom is black. My father is black.
No, I'm asking, were they born in the United States?
No, because I wasn't born there.
Oh, so you guys are all from Angola?
Yes, but again, like I told you earlier, right? In terms of people like KTS Dre, they were shot. BLM doesn't come out for them. And I remember you earlier said...
think it's really
hold on,
important.
Can I please finish? You earlier said that BLM is worried about police, but when Daniel Penny choked out the man that we all know was causing violence on that subway train...
He was not causing violence.
He was threatening people.
Causing disruption is not causing violence.
He was threatening people.
Causing disruption is not causing violence.
And the people there helped him.
Is a threat violence? I mean, I guess you could say it is a crime to threaten somebody. A threat of violence is a crime.
Also, and we know that we helped them.
I don't know what that has to do with BLM. Random people on a train is not Black Lives Matter.
BLM showed up for that. They did.
Showed up for what?
BLM showed up threatening white people, saying that they were going to go get white people. Now they
BLM
did.
protested.
BLM New York.
BLM protested. Where did you get that from? You see,
BLM
your sources are not. You're not able to cite your sources.
In
Please
New
go
York.
sit down.
Yeah, that's the truth.
It's not the truth. It's not the truth. It's not the. Nothing you say is actually the truth. Nothing. You're not even American. You're not even a black American. Listen, as the daughter of an immigrant, it is imperative that Black people from other places understand the disparate difference that they exist.
Disparate difference. You hear that? Disparate difference.
Understand the disparate difference that they exist from Black people in the United States. It is not the same. Period. And ultimately, the best effort that we can do as a diaspora is to lead in understanding, not in judgment. So when I am talking to somebody from Sudan, from the Congo, from Angola, I am listening to understand their experience, not to undermine it. And I refuse to allow anybody from Grenada, from Angola, from any other place to come and try to undermine the experience of Black Americans.
Man, oh man. How much a few years change. Oh man. It's funny because just a few years ago, I remember her, speaking about Amanda Seales, being one of the most vocal people. Y'all remember that video from a couple years ago of that, I don't know, that white woman walking through New York to call out catcalling, the disrespect that women face on the streets. And she made sure to walk through a neighborhood that had quote unquote minorities in it, particularly Black men. And they painted that, they walked through the video for apparently 24 hours or all day. And the video was only an hour long. That's all they can find of people quote unquote harassing this woman. Well, Amanda Seales is one of the main people on television waving the flag along with those Caucasian women that this is harassment towards women. This needs to be corrected, yada, yada, yada. And then very quickly, those Caucasian women said, yeah, this needs to be a criminal offense. That's what the white people do. When you do something they don't like, they make it a crime. And that's when the Black women had to, step back. Amanda Seales people had to step back. Like, whoa, we're not saying it should be criminalized. We just wanted it to be some type of social thing that we can just rah-rah about. I thought I had the video. I'm pretty sure I have the video of her on television, but I can't find it right now. So it's funny now to see her on this. She kind of she went from a very pro-feminist platform to being more pro-Black-ish militant. So now she's kind of going in between the Pan-African versus the respect for nationalities type thing. Hold on, let me make sure I don't have it. I don't think I got it. All right, whatever. So after she said that, and people started calling her out on what they believed was her rebrand herself, she went on Savvy Sav's show where she has something to say about the conversation around the ADOS FBA stuff. She went and commented further on it with this here. Let me play this.
Well, here's one of the questions from Devotion Orange. Can you ask Amanda how she came to be a part of the reparations discussion without mentioning the ADOS movement?
The ADOS movement has been harassing me and attacking me for the past how many years? Telling me that I'm a coconut, that I need to go back to Grenada, telling me that I am not Black American, even though I am the descendant of chattel slavery in the United States, and that I literally, my great-great-great-grandmother's the birth certificate for her daughter is also signed by her slave owner. So it's like deeply insulting. And I just don't think that the conversation about reparations should be solely attached to being a descendant of slavery, because we know that Black people in the United States have suffered at the hands of racism and legislation and institutionalization of racism in more ways than one. So yes, there is reparations owed to American descendants of slavery. There are also reparations owed to individuals who were not able to get property and land and redlined out of those spaces. There is reparations owed to people. I believe there's reparations owed to the people who are still locked up right now on marijuana charges.
You know, it's funny because this is now the platform of ADOS, where they say that reparations for slavery is for American descendants of slaves, but there needs to be repair for all Black people who had to go through, Jim Crow, redlining, all the other stuff. So that is this. She's now using, that is the same platform that particularly Yvette is using now.
In places where marijuana is no longer a criminal offense. And you have Ashley H and Ashley C with a marijuana dispensary, while, Tyree and Lateef are still doing time because of a 3 strikes law that Joe Biden helped to push. So, when it comes to ADOS, I think that there are certain members of the ADOS community who really are simply just saying, I am a descendant of American slavery. But when I see a lot of the mouthpieces of ADOS who really are at the forefront of the movement,
it feels more exclusionary than inclusionary. And I don't think that is useful as a Pan-Africanist.
Well, I've interviewed some on the show. And there's places where I agree and there's places where I disagree. But one thing I will say, when I talk about reparations, I do make that distinction because of the legality and the debt that's owed. So that is one of the things that I do discuss on the show, is that reparations in the United States is owed to those who are the descendants. And that's based on the debt that is owed, that 40 acres and a mule. I just don't want people to confuse it with like racial injustice. But I also tell people I do believe that reparations are owed to Haiti from France. Like you said, you mentioned Britain. I believe that as well. But I think that when we look at the legality of it, we can't
I haven't argued that. I mean, I literally just said that.
Yeah, I think
she's very blunt. She can help it be very blunt. She said it's definitely a rebrand. I don't think it's going to work. She's still not well liked. Here's the crazy part, and I might y'all might disagree with me on this. Amanda Seales has the personality, unfortunately, that is not going to be well liked by a lot of people or some people. But sometimes the reason why is she has the language and stuff that if she decided to go behind the scenes and get behind certain causes and not try to be a talking head, she might have way more success in moving things forward. That's what I believe. I said the same thing about Yvette and Tone, where, for instance, when Yvette and Tone thing took off and I said, hey, when this thing grows, I keep saying this, there's going to be a personality that comes along that might be able to take it to the next level. You're going to have to be willing to take a step back. They didn't want to do that. That's their prerogative, whatever. But then we saw with Tariq, the second the FBA thing started taking off, he made sure to immediately say, I am not the leader. This is a lineage, yada, yada, yada. Now, he might have done that so that he don't have to take any responsibility for anything. He can't be held to account for anything that happens. He might have did that to wash his hands of it. But the fact that he was willing to even come public and say, I'm not the leader, this is not mine's, and anybody who can move this thing forward, do so. That's what I expected from other people. And I think people like Amanda Seales, they should be behind the scenes rather than in front of the camera. Craig said, first Candace Owens with the rebrand, now Amanda Seales, Caribbean women down bad. Candace Owens rebrand is weird because she said she didn't want to talk politics anymore. Same thing with Anthony Brian Logan, who was in that 20v1 versus Amanda Seales in that video. They said they don't want to talk politics no more because it's became so toxic, particularly him. Like, you can't talk politics without it being racial at this point. Even if you're that black conservative, let's be honest, most black conservatives who say, let's stop talking race, they typically, if you go to their YouTube channels, any type of platform they build, they typically focus on race a lot. Like, anytime they talk about black people, it's to correct them for being wrong about something. As Candace Owens is weird because she has probably the biggest platform, not the biggest, she has one of the larger platforms on the right wing side of politics. But I feel like she's kind of looked at like nobody really want to touch her like that. Like she's helped certain companies make money, but her views on Israel, her views on certain other things just make her, she don't fit perfectly into the right wing thing because they're very pro-Israel, which is funny because they're Nazis. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Keeper says she still sounds crazy and obnoxious. Craig says good to have you back. Do hope everything is fine. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's pretty hectic, but things are back on schedule. I didn't know if I was gonna go live today because my system was acting up. I was like, man, I might have to do something crazy and go live on like a midday because I don't want to wait till next weekend. I might have to go live on a midday, but I had to get it out today anyway. Thank y'all for coming through. Keeper says she's too full of herself. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's her. Maybe her knowledge, what she deems to be her knowledge and her being well read and educated comes off as arrogance, I guess. And I guess that's a problem for most people who are not just intelligent but well educated. They can come off as arrogant to people very quickly when they constantly correct you. Like even this last point she made right here, when the Sabby Sabs woman said her viewpoint, and then Amanda immediately said, I just said that. Like, I just said what you just said. It can come off as abrasive. It can come off as aggressive, but maybe it's not meant to be. It is what it is, though. So Amanda still Friend, we'll see what happens with her in the political sphere. And like I said, that Jubilee channel, the fact that they, the fact that that Asian man, he put out the Amanda Seals video. I think it's at like over 3 million at this point, or close to 3 million. Then he put out a black man versus black woman video, the gender wars. And I'm like, why would you? Now I'm wondering, is it him doing this, or does he have a producer? Does he has? I'm pretty sure he has a team. So who thought it was a good idea to do that video? Because now it's obviously numbers at this point. You're looking for numbers. And why do those black people decide to? We know why, but it's not really a question I need to be answered. But why would you go on another platform to try and go viral again with the gender wars? Like, please, please, please stop. But anyway, a topic I didn't get to a couple of weeks ago, and I might have a radical opinion on this. Y'all might disagree with me heavily on this, but I'm gonna get to it. Dr. Umar Johnson. Oh man, all I've been seeing for 3 weeks now is, the fall of Dr. Umar. It's crazy how the critique did change though. This is not to bail him out or give him bail or defend him. They told me for years that he didn't own a school. They told me he did not own a school, that he was collecting money. He did not own a building. Now we find out that his building that he owned, that he did own it and it's been auctioned off. Now it's, he was wasting the money. I'm just asking the question here. Have any of you seen anything from Dr. Umar that says that he's taking his money and spending it on himself? He showed us his home. He's shown us, we see how he dressed. We've seen his car. I haven't seen anything that shows somebody who's taking money and spending it frivolously, who's just wasting money. I see a person who has terrible money management and shot for the stars and didn't even reach the moon. And I got another thing I'm gonna say. I think a lot of the problem with Dr. Umar and possibly even trying to fund a building for a school is that his talking points were not popular. Though he is popular because he's controversial on the internet. His anti-LGBT viewpoints, what he says about interracial dating, and the fact that this school was supposed to be particularly for black boys, I'm going to say it. I think that's why he didn't get the funding he may have needed. Now, y'all may say he's a scammer. Let's stop talking about it. Forget it. He finally got exposed. He's a scammer. I just don't follow that completely.
On August the 5th, the city of Wilmington, Delaware, took out a notice to auction off the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy campus for unpaid vacant property registration fees. I repeat, on August the 5th, the city of Wilmington, Delaware, took out a lien to auction off the campus we bought.
Oh, what up, Ashley? Good to see you.
The campus we've been working on for 6.5 years. I was not notified of this. We were not notified of this. This past weekend, without an email. This past weekend, without a letter in the mail. This past weekend, without a phone call. The city of Wilmington put a notice on the door handle of both of our schools, informing me that if we don't pay the past due vacant property registration fees and outstanding utilities by the 25th of Black August, they will sell our campus.
Now, I'm pretty sure you already know all this. I don't need to play the whole thing. But, so I see, obviously, you already heard everything I'm pretty sure about this. The fall of Umar, the scammer, like I said. And I saw a lot of people comparing him to another brother, King Randall, I think that's his name, where he has a school. He does work with young black children, particularly young black boys. And they were comparing what Umar didn't do to what he did do. And I got to say, there's a difference. There's a big difference in what happened. Ashley said, although very educated, come on now, Umar is an op. Wouldn't be surprised if he works alongside any of the ABC agencies. It's an entire plant. Shake my head. I disagree. I don't think anything Dr. Umar has said publicly goes along with something that hurts or harms black people. unless you just have the ideology that Pan-Africanism is just a negative thing, we need to get rid of it. If that's your point, then I'll back up away from that. But what has Umar said that is a negative for Black America? He said he's not along with certain agendas. He doesn't support interracial dating. He doesn't support certain negative aspects of hip hop and his influence on Black America. He doesn't support either political party. I don't know. If your whole point is just he's a Pan-African, that's a negative thing, or that he's a scammer, he's taking money away and selling false hope to the people, and I back up. But I don't think his platform is really a anti-Black thing. But they compare him to King Randall, and I want to say this: the King Randall dude. Congratulations, shout out to him. I want to shout out to him. But the King Randall dude, to me, in my opinion, was able to get funding for the things that he need because of white people. I've seen the Randall dude. He'll say something not inflammatory or negative about Black people, but it'll be just racism isn't a big issue in 2025. We gotta build on our own. It's nothing inflammatory, nothing crazy. But you'll have people that say, saying that racism isn't the problem. The Black people that disagree with him. And under his comment section, it'll be a bunch of white people agreeing with him, saying thank you for standing for what's right, yada yada yada. And he'll put a link for donations. I saw it with my own 2 eyes like 2 years ago. He said something that went viral like crazy. He had so many donations from white people for saying it. And he took the money and put it back into his community with the Black youth. So my point is, I've seen people get more money for support for Black issues from white people than from Black people. That's just what I've seen. Ashley said, I could care less about him being Pan-African, and I'm not saying he's anti-Black, but just like with plants that were put in the Nation of Islam and Black Panthers, he's no different. I guess we agree to disagree. I don't know if I agree with him being a plant, though. I don't know if I agree with that. But hey, who knows? As we in the time where everything getting exposed, if they took his school and stuff and they ready to bring him down, if he's some type of plant being used for whatever agenda, we may see more come out on him. Let's move. I'm not going to stay on this long. But this right here. Lightyear writer defends film lesbian couple after Snoop Dogg critique. I'm proud of it. People said Randall already had a foundation before he started going on Fox and other platforms. No, I'm not talking about him being right wing or nothing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying on social media, when I see him go viral and ask for donations for support his thing like a couple years ago, it was mainly white people. I'm not saying that's a negative. I'm saying he hustling. I'm saying he's saying what he knows is going. I believe he say things that he knows is going to entice, particularly white people, to come along and give him the funds. I'm not saying he don't believe what he's saying. I'm not saying he lying or whatever. I'm saying he knows how to play the game. He get his money and he puts it back into his community. That's why I respect it. I don't say nothing negative about him, even if I disagree with some of the things he says, because whatever he say, any money that we see him get from donations or whatever, we see it go back to Black youth. So it's nothing bad to say. Anima says, dry begging women for money is negative. If men are builders, they should be this sole source for income. Well, that's not, it's the same thing with church. You know, the money for the pastor or the church in general comes from the women in the church. Women are very, it's strange because if you're trying to build a business or a platform, women are extremely important, particularly amongst Black people. Black women are extremely important to build a platform. But it's a situation where you can easily lose them. With Black men, it's extremely hard to get a strong Black male support. It's extremely hard to get Black male support, but once you got them, you don't lose them easily. So it's a weird thing. Actually said all the funding he's received as far as donations, there is no reason why he doesn't have money more than one school built at this point. Where's the money going? Well, how much money has he received? Has he ever made that public? Because I remember maybe years ago, he had a public, his donation, however he was donating money, he had it public, the number. and everybody went and checked and saw the money was still there. It wasn't being taken out. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't see a person who's scamming and committing fraud against people because he hasn't purchased, or he's not moving, he's not taking vacations, he's not, unless he's just taking the money and storing it for the future, then that's a whole other thing. He playing the long game, the long con game. That's different. But I haven't seen anything. I think it's bad money management. And he even said on his interview with on the Joe Budden podcast that he think he would be a lot further in his plans had he got married a lot younger. And I agree with him. I think if he would have had a real system around him to hold him accountable in certain ways, he would have been more focused. I think when you were somebody like him who got all these ideas and things you're trying to do at the same time, you're just all over the place mentally. So because he's all over the place mentally, he's not able to bog down and get one thing done. And let's not act like he's not making great money from his speeches. So I don't see a reason why he would be spending donation money when he's getting 10, 15, 20K for his speeches that he's getting around the country. I don't know. I might be wrong. I might be wrong. Maybe I'm being delusional. Anonymous says, black men have been making a lot of excuses for this man. What happened to accountability? Is that only for black women too? No, it's not. It's not. Anonymous says he's spending it on drugs and sloppy women. That's why you're not seeing it. Well, what's the evidence of the women? There's only one woman in the last 10 years that came out and said he's had relations with her. And that was a stripper back in like 2018 or something. She was a Hotep stripper. That was her name on social media. But maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, getting through this, the Lightyear the new movie Lightyear writer defends film's lesbian couple after Snoop Dogg critique. I am proud of it. Let me play what Snoop had to say. Because the way Snoop Dogg's comments read versus how they sound when you actually listen to the audio, this was to me taken way out of context, blown way out of proportion. But they coming for his head. Let me play what he had to say.
Took my grandson to see
Anonymous says, correction, more than one woman. Well, what's the other ones? I only know one. I haven't followed it that closely, but the one I know is all the way back then. Let me play this right quick. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. All right, I should be back now. All right, sorry, y'all. All right, let's get back to it. This is Snoop's comments on the new movie.
I took my grandson to see what was the movie with Buzz Light?
Toy Story?
Not that one, but
the new Buzz. The Lightyear. I think it's called Lightyear.
Yeah, with Keke Palmer's in that movie.
Okay.
She plays like the daughter. So we watching it, and the lady, which is Kiki's mama, they move on into the space years. They move down the line. They're like, man, she had a baby with a woman. Well, my grandson in the middle of the movie like, Papa Snoop, how she have a baby with a woman? She a woman. Oh, shit. I didn't come in for this shit. I just came to watch the goddamn movie. Hey, man, watch the movie. They just said she had a baby. They both women's. How did she have a baby? Shh. The movie ain't over with. So it's like, it fucked me. I'm scared to go to the movies now. Like, y'all throwing me in the middle of shit that I don't have an answer for.
Otto said the recent mess he was dealing with was a new character unlock. Stop playing with. I will say this too. To the people wishing on his downfall, what's going to happen when he turns to a full-time content creator? To a lot of the people who trying to build their platforms and push their agendas and ideologies, what happened if he turned full-time content creator and no longer has the baggage of their school on him? I'm just be careful what you ask for. But Virginia says, on Facebook, I told George the only people who can see Umar as a coon is dumb Negroes who can't see Umar as a coon are dumb niggas who insist on supporting him. George accused me of throwing you, Travis, under the bus. Well, you is kind of calling me a coon. I'm not saying I don't see, I can see, obviously I see the obvious why people are saying what they're saying. I'm not that far gone. I'm just saying maybe I'm giving him way too much of a leash. Maybe that's what it is. calling me a dumb Negro. But this Snoop situation, it sounded like he was being very lighthearted about it. Like, hey man, don't put me in between having to talk about this with my grandkid. I just want to come see a movie. It's a Lightyear movie. It shouldn't be this type of content, and that's just his opinion, and I share that opinion. And they trying to get his job. What's the name of that show? He's on The Voice, I think it is. They trying to get him removed, and they call him all type of homophobic and stuff. And it's like, man, a man can't want to go see a kids movie without having certain content in it where he had to have certain conversations he's not comfortable having at the moment. Like, we don't even know his actual views on this. He could be completely pro whatever's in the movie, but I don't want to have to talk to this about my grandson. Maybe when he's old, I don't care, but I just didn't want to talk about it at the time. But they ain't giving him they're giving him no whatchamacallit. So I want to share someone else talking about it. Because they obviously have been doing this to all the movies you can think of. Them Disney, we're not surprised by Disney at all and the stuff they're putting in their films. When you go back, sometimes it was even worse back in the day. I'm not going to play all of this. I'm just going to play some of this. Let me play a little bit of this. Hold on.
Recently, and talked about taking his grandkids to go see the Lightyear movie a couple years ago.
I took my grandson to see what was the movie with Buzz Lightyear?
A movie. So a couple of things here. This is another example of why I told you that we should have gone out to see the Lightyear movie in droves. Okay. Because this is what happened. The movie came in light, and then it was carte blanche for everybody to like criticize the movie or whatever. Oh, we'll go broke, whatever. Put that to the side. I'm going to do something for the homies, for all of the homies, the other older homies. I'm going to tell them two things. One, just so you know, it's your job to explain things to kids.
Yeah, but what if I don't want to explain it now? It wasn't necessary to have this in the movie. That's the point. Not saying that people don't, whether you support it or not is not the point. Why is it here? It doesn't make sense. You're purposely trying to introduce it to children at this point. This is on purpose, obviously. Trey says, so what Snoop said was that toxic masculinity Tracy Ellis Ross was talking about. Apparently, and I find it funny that Van tried to make it seem like this is only the older man who believe this talking point or agree with this. And we just got to stop doing this, man. And talk about a person who was not quite who you thought they were. I remember when Van Lathan first left TMZ and he had all the support. Oh, start your own podcast. We're going to move with you. And though he has a successful platform, it's so unfortunate how often he ends up on certain sides of these social media topics. Because this ain't really a real thing in the real world. How often he's on the side of just this extremely liberal thinking. It's just, this never ends well, particularly for black men. Virginia says, I did realize I was talking about you and what you stated about hard to release be a black man loyalty once you give it makes sense. It's nuance. Yeah, that's why when you see Umar asking his black women to give him money, and then I saw the video, I think was talking about where he asked for money and then some dude said something and he said, don't get mad if your baby mama, your girl, or your wife would give me money. That he started going in on the dude. Funny enough, that's Umar. That's why he goes viral, because he goes back and forth. He's funny to some people. He talks junk. But I understand the opposite of that. I get it. Mark said, what if you can't explain it to your kids? Well, you can always explain it. It's the point of, do you want to explain it in a way that softens it, or do you want to be blunt and say this is some BS they pushing on us and you shouldn't support it? Or are you going to say, hey, sometimes it's yada, that type of thing. Ashley said, how easy would it have been to take up his grandson and leave? Come on now. Well, see, that's the thing. He could have just left. But when you're in America, at least, as a consumer, if I go to a movie and something pops up on the screen I don't like and I just leave, then that could solve the issue for me. What if it's 10,000? 100,000, 1,000,000 people that have the same opinion. Like, why is this in the movie? It's nothing wrong with coming online or going to some type of forum or something and letting it be known, hey, we don't want this in the movie, especially if you didn't know it was in there. Now, I don't know if it was already well known that it was in the movie through trailers or something. I didn't see it. But if something pops up in a movie that I didn't think it would be in that movie, and now it's here, now regardless if I leave now, my grandson is asking me these questions that he wasn't asking me yesterday. So I don't think there's nothing wrong with at least voicing your opinion on that. Anima says his choice to co-host wasn't your first. Yeah, I remember. She's divorced now, ain't she? So that didn't end well for her, at least. That didn't end well, but it should have been. But you want to support certain people, you know, when black people do the whole, you know, martyr thing and we feel like they're being done wrong, we throw our support behind them and then they keep doing stuff. You just go, why you do that? Why you do that? And at some point you just check out like, all right, bro. You know who I thought were. But anyway, speaking of struggling for support, hold on. I want to talk about this now. Let's get to this. I don't have to read the article, just the headline. Morgan said it wasn't in the trailer. See, if it wasn't in the trailers, I have to know. So now I see it. We see it. The question gets asked. Now we're leaving, and I still got to deal with it. Dems are struggling to register voters and raise money. I wonder if it got anything to do with them pushing Newsom like crazy. I don't know if y'all saw it, but on X, they have a whole page dedicated to him now. That they was forever so many tweets that popped up on my timeline. I don't follow none of that stuff. It kept popping up. They are pushing him heavily now. Keep it. I have to dip out. I'll try and get back to the show or catch the replay. Oh, thanks for showing up. Gotta go. I understand. A new analysis of the New York Times brings more bad news for the opposition party ahead of 2026 midterms. I wonder if it got anything to do with Kamala Harris going on, what is it? Her book tour. Was it 100 and something days, the book? Her about her time during the campaign. One of the people was checking out on that. Hold on, y'all. I'm sorry. All right. Well, here we go. Yeah, Kamala Harris announced international book tour for 107 days. Harris to visit New York, Houston, and London, among other cities, to promote her memoir about the 2024 presidential campaign. Listen, ain't like that political book money. If you get in politics and you get in any type of controversial or scandal, just go write a book and you'll make a couple million. We've seen it with so many people. Writing a book it's a pastime at this point. Let's move on. All right. All right, let's get to this. Now, this became a story recently, and it tells me there's been a shift, maybe, with Trump. There's things he said a couple years ago. He got different people behind him, obviously. Trump says Smithsonian should focus on America's brightness, not how bad slavery was. This goes back to the whole talking point of, if you don't talk about slavery, it'll go away, or focus on your present and future and don't be held back by the past. Whenever it's black people, everybody else, they tell you, you can only know where you're going if you know where you've been. But black people, we're supposed to forget everything before 1970. We're supposed to just forget and move on. But he basically wants to rewrite what they show, at least, in the museums that focus on history of race in this country. President Donald Trump on Tuesday confirmed the White House is conducting a review on the Smithsonian museums and expressed frustration over their portrayal of dark parts of America's history, including slavery. Once again, in my opinion, this has nothing to really do with, even though it's about black people, this is what it's focused on, it's really about them trying to rebuild the esteem and respect they have for themselves and build more patriotic white male youth. The Smithsonian is out of control. With everything discussed is how horrible this country is, how bad slavery was, how unaccomplished and downtrodden have been. Nothing about success, nothing about brightness, nothing about the future, Trump wrote on social media platform. Craig says he's doing everything to change people's minds about those Epstein files. I still think there's a lot of that involved. I'm still laughing at the so-called left side of politics acting like they care about the files after not asking about it one time when Biden was in office. Now you care again, but we know how they go. We aren't going to allow this to happen, and I've instructed my attorney to go through the museum and start the exact same process that's been done with colleges and universities where tremendous progress has been made. Trump added, the country cannot be woke because woke is broke. We have the hottest country in the world, and we want people to talk about it, including in our museums. Smithsonian declined to comment. Now, his whole thing with wanting to focus on different parts of history rather than the truth, wanting to paint things with rosy glasses, it's not a surprising because, like I said, they've done it with the Board of Education, K through 12. They've done this. This has been an agenda for them for the past decade. They've let it be known multiple times what their plan is and what they're trying to do. The same thing. This is tied to the abortion situation. This is Roe v. Wade. This is tied to the marriage thing, where in certain states you cannot ask for a divorce based off of just not agreeing with each other. This is all tied together. Mark said they got rid of PBS. Yeah, the funding for that, I think NPR as well is gone, which is basically state-owned media. So it's that nobody really cares about it. But NPR is obviously how you get Tiny Desk and all that other stuff. So yeah, they're defunding certain things. Like I said, he's been retracting a lot of things, or the money situation is still not being paid attention to since some of the prices went down on certain things. People not focusing on it as much, but they're still doing that, and it should be still focused on somewhat. What is that child being taught? Viewers call for removing Julian Michaels' black adopted daughter after her remark about slavery on CNN. Let me play some of this.
Have you looked at some of the things?
Yeah, slavery was a bad thing that was to talk about.
Okay,
like
he's not whitewashing slavery. So
he's not.
He's not. No.
Okay.
He's not. And you cannot tie imperialism and racism and slavery to just one race.
And I said this years ago. They've been trying to change their image of America to try and use soft power. That was before Trump. Trump has kind of went the opposite route and went back to trying to be bully America again. But I told you I saw a video years ago about a white dude named Stefan. I thought it was funny. There's a white dude named Stefan who made a video where he basically was pointing out how everybody hates white people. And he said, why does everyone hate us? And he went through all the things that he deemed to be great things that white people have done to the world with inventions and stuff. And he left out all the crime and war and torture and murder. He left all that out. And they don't want this because they see what we all see, which is this thing is falling apart. And so the celebration that other countries are partaking in and seeing it live fall slowly, they are trying to change the image. We're not the only ones that did these things. Yeah, but you did it worldwide. You went out of your way to go do it. It's like the old story they tell where the first people on Pangea, if you believe in the idea of that, they banished a group of people, and then those people went off somewhere. And when they came back, they were denied to be part of the group anymore. No, you're not with us no more. And then those people left again when they got weapons and came back and took everything through murder and war. That's who they are.
which is pretty much what every single exhibit does. But let's talk about the fact that when you look at slavery, let's talk about the fact.
Slavery in America was.
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans owned slaves?
But it was a system of white supremacy.
You realize that slavery is thousands of years old?
White people were.
Do you know who was the first race to try to end slavery?
Wait a second.
Well, what's controversial?
I'm very surprised.
This is an extraordinary exercise in historical revisionism.
I'm really surprised.
Do you realize that?
Jillian, I'm surprised that you're trying to litigate who was beneficiary of slavery and who was not.
What I'm trying to tell you is
in the context of American history. Okay. In the context of American history, what are you saying is incorrect by saying that it was white people oppressing black people?
Every single thing is like, oh no, this is all because white people bad. And
see, white people bad. They don't want to be the villain anymore. They didn't care about this in the 40s, 50s, 60s. They didn't care about being the villain. Hey, we the big dog. Do something. Do something. You don't like what we doing? Do something. Now, they realize no one wants to see anything good come out of the fall of this country. They wanted to crumble. The world want to watch it crumble. No one wants to save you. No one wants to partner with you. Everybody want to see you fail and die. That's it.
It's just not the truth. Like, for example, every single exhibit, I have a list of every.
Well, why wouldn't every single exhibit in America have you as the slave? That's what was happening in America. I don't understand. I don't understand what the controversy is. Virginia says, "Duh, I'm just realizing this is to maintain white American hope illusions. They for top dollars to lure immigrants here for the illusion of the dream that keeps the money flowing, no wealth and truth." Yeah, that's why everything is connected. They want the immigrants in because they're not having children, and they need somebody to keep the economy up. They need workers. They ain't having kids. That's why they want the white woman to not to be able to abort her children and not to be able to ask for a divorce. They want her home and pregnant. They trying to build their numbers back up because they see it's falling. Not just in America, worldwide. Their numbers are falling. And they know in the next, if you believe this world going to be around in the next 50 years, it's pretty much going to be, it's over for them. Virginia says, I definitely rock with the Pangea theory. Craig says, these all white bitches kill me. Yeah. And it's funny how she has that the adopted black daughter.
Every single one. Like, people migrated from Cuba because white people bad. Not because of Castro. Yes, no, it's in there. That's what I'm saying. You don't actually know what's in there.
Well, the reason why they said that is because who was one sending military to their country who put sanctions on their country to affect their economy? Like, that's, were a part of all this. That's the point. And that's another thing. In school, if you teach a 5-year-old, 10-year-old Caucasian child this, they won't grow up with the same pride as their great-grandfathers did back in the day. Because as much as they talk to you about all these so-called founding fathers, they're also talking to you about what you did in Colombia, in Cuba, and throughout Africa, and throughout the Middle East. They also telling you all the wicked deeds you did. And so that's less pride. And it's not leading to a strong culture for them. They're going through the same thing Black Americans have went through the last 4, 5, maybe 600 years. Not that we don't have a culture. Our culture has been weakened to a point where we don't have as much ethnic pride as we once did. But yeah, that was controversial. They want her to get rid of her daughter and stuff, but we know the true agenda. I want to play this right here. And the sudden change in the Trump agenda. Not really change, but he kind of shifted positions on certain things and why that may be. I don't know if Bannon is still, I don't think he's dealing with Trump anymore. That other wacko warmonger, I forgot his name, dude with the glasses, the skinny dude with the mustache and no beard, I forgot his name. Those people are not around anymore. So it's a different crop. And let me show what she found.
It would be hard not to notice that a new breed of supervillains are attempting to take over the Pride Lands. And yeah, everyone knows about Scar, but we need to talk about the hyenas. First up is Shenzi, the most intelligent of the three. This here is our Shenzi, Curtis Yarvin. And if you don't know his name, that's by design. He's sort of the mastermind behind a lot of the pseudo-intellectual philosophies of the far right. He's a blogger and a software developer who's known for leading a right-wing thought movement called Dark Enlightenment. He's basically challenging the whole idea that democracy is the best way to govern. He feels that the U.S. would best be run by a group of super wealthy dictator types. He believes that liberal philosophies coming from academia and the media need to be stamped out post-haste.
You see that? That's why you get the Board of Education they were threatening to put the Board of Education on the chopping block. What they threatened to do with the colleges when they said you got to get rid of all the DEI stuff. This is what it's all tied to.
Curtis Yarvin's philosophies have become popular with a lot of the super wealthy tech bro types and some leading political figures in the last 10 to 15 years.
And it also sounds like very Epstein-ish. Epstein believed that it was his job to sow his oats and use his DNA to create more what he considered superhumans, people that were intelligent enough to move the society forward.
Oh, and as a fun little bonus, he's kind of a eugenicist who believes that there are intellectual differences between the races. He's a gem. Next up is Bonsai. Not quite the intellectual that Shenzi is, but he makes up for it with shrewdness, almost to the point of being downright vicious. This is Peter Thiel.
I heard his name before, but I actually forgot about him.
He's taken a lot of Curtis Yarvin's philosophies and put them into practice. Peter Thiel was a buddy of Elon Musk's. They were both involved in founding PayPal back in the day. Peter Thiel is now the head of a data analytics company called Palantir that you're going to start hearing more and more about. Let's just say that there's probably nothing that Palantir doesn't know about you at this point. Palantir has deep ties to national security and law enforcement, and
we talked about this a few weeks ago when they said they're supposed to have a master file on certain Americans. First, they said they were going to use this on certain politicians or people that deemed to be possible threats or whatever, but then it kind of opened up to all Americans.
Getting more and more involved in policing, surveillance, and immigration enforcement. And no one really keeps a check on how they do their work or what they're going to do with the info that they collect. It's basically a two-headed monster of tech and state power. Peter Thiel is a tech billionaire who put millions of dollars behind J.D. Vance's Senate campaign when the guy was about to become a footnote in history. J.D. Vance won his Senate seat in Ohio because of Peter Thiel, and J.D. Vance became the vice presidential nominee because of Peter Thiel's influence. And this is before he'd even served 2 years in the Senate. That is the Curtis Yarvin dark enlightenment philosophy at work. Use your wealth to basically bypass the whole democratic process and install the leaders that you think will carry out your capitalist designs.
Now, it's funny how this person is painting this as more of a right-wing thing when we've seen this happen on the left as well. You know, Soros, the name that you can't even say, and plenty of other billionaires fund campaigns and all this other stuff on the left side of politics. We saw a whole article written in 2020 when Trump lost the election and how they came out in that, I think it was a New York Times article, and showed everything they did on social media, advertising, what they told them not to talk about, how they expected them to address certain things. They funded an anti-Trump campaign, and now the other side is doing it to an even higher level. It's the same thing on both sides.
Who needs a middleman? And finally, we have Ed, the puppet, the stooge, bought and paid for. Not really capable of producing much independent thought, but doing his best to carry out the wishes of his smarter and wealthier overseers. This is the guy, in my estimation, that they are pinning their hopes on, J.D. Vance.
And like I said, I see a lot of the push for Newsom even more. I think Newsom loses to him. I don't think he hit Vance. I don't think he will. But so I wanted to show this too. This became a thing. Let me show this. New York appeals court throws out Trump's more than $500 million fraud judgment. The ruling by the state division spares the president and his companies from having to pay an award they had warned would severely damage his company. So after Miss James went after him, won her case, she won the case. She went around and bragged about it, and I knew he was going to come after her, and we've seen investigations been put on her now. And now they've overruled the case. They've overruled the judgment. This is after she initially won the case.
You also intend to prosecute him after he is out of office, correct?
Joy, again, our investigation currently is civil in nature. It is not criminal. In the event that we uncover any activity or conduct, in the event that we uncover any conduct, Oh, yes.
But will you go ahead
Our
with civil suits?
Yes, our civil suit will continue, whether he's president or not. And so after January 20th at 12 o'clock, our investigation will continue, Joy.
Look at her smiling. They thought they had, boy, they can't stand Trump, boy. But then the judge, who's trying to be some freaked out dude, walking around, take pictures of himself. He showed himself to be incompetent. I'm trying to find. This is what Miss James is posting on social media. 464,571,230. That's the money that he was supposed to spend. To pay. And then she made sure to add on to what the add-ons to it. And now they've flipped it. And now she's under investigation. I know somebody else missing too. What's her name? What's the woman? Fonnie. Is Fonnie Lewis? Fonnie Willis? I forgot her name. She done went missing too. And I also see down in Atlanta, good Lord. Hey, they didn't get Young Thug in the courts. He pleaded out and was able to go home. They didn't get him in the courts. But boy, are they getting him right now. They're releasing jail calls, making him look crazy. They're randomly an interrogation that people have already seen popped up like from 3 years ago. And now they're using that to make him out to be a snitch. So they didn't get him in the courts, but boy, his reputation is finito. And by the way, the Atlanta music scene, I said it like 2 years ago, it was already falling. It has nothing to do with the trial or nothing. The Atlanta music scene was already falling. It was two people holding it up, really. Metro Boomin and Future. That's it. So we're gonna see how that the new Black Mecca, how that's gonna play out, and if it's gonna move on like it did from New York or not. Let's get to this. Actually, I'm gonna save this right here for next week. I'm gonna tie this into something else. I'm gonna say this for next week. Let's get to this right here. All right. Caroline steps down as president of the CEO of Essence Ventures. The author will not return to Essence Ventures following her health leave. Now, I remember when the Essence Fest happened, people were on her. It was on a bad. And then she came out and said, I had nothing to do with it. I haven't been around for more than a year. So I thought, okay, well, she's already stepped down. But no, she's just now stepping down. Apparently she was on leave for her health reasons. I don't believe that either. So what does it mean, them getting rid of her? Was it really the backlash received, considering she had nothing to do with the festival? Was it really the backlash received that made her step down, or was this just a health reason? Or did she feel pushed out by the backlash? It didn't even matter if she was there or not. The fact that people going in on her so bad, it makes sense why she didn't bother to come back. So she's gone. But I also found, when people are now finding out, this is a while ago, that the person who we thought owned Essence don't even own it. It's owned by a corporation at this point. It's not owned by who we thought it was. So he purchased it, and now it's owned by a corporation apparently. So what does this really lead us to? Is anybody going to try to purchase it back from them, or is this going to be a situation where next year is it going to be canceled? We're going to wipe their hands of it completely? I'm just wondering. I want to show this here too. What's this?
Care if students are getting kicked out of the United States. All right.
Oh, yeah. We're going to get to this too. Speaking of immigration, I want to talk about this here. Let me play this right quick.
Why would the governments care if students are getting kicked out of the United States? All right.
And Trump is now allowing 600,000, I believe, Chinese students to come into the country. So make sure I say that. Student
who gets sit over here, he's the anchor getting thrown out, right? He comes over here, gets a foothold, right? And maybe gets a good job, starts sending remittances back to their home country. I'm going to tell you why the governments are upset about this. So he's sending back remittances. His money is usually worth more than the United States dollar is worth more than his dollar, right? So that's increasing the GDP of his homeland. Now let's multiply that by all of his family members. Now they were coming over there, and now because of this anchor, now he's pulling the boat over here bringing his family over here, and now they sending the remittances back. This is a problem when 3% of your GDP, 3%. You understand how much 3% is? 5% is like, whoa, that's like if we lose that, we're gonna fall apart in some sector. 3% is we have 4 legs, now we have 3. Not gonna fall over, but we pretty close. Mexico, I think I looked it up. I gotta look it up. I had it. I should have left it on here. But Mexico, 3% of their GDP is the remittances they get from the United States.
That's 4.5%, as she said here in the edit.
Do you understand how much money that is? And so if you cut off these leeches, and they can't bring over their related leeches, now the governments are upset. This is a reason to go to war. You messing with my money because I can't exploit your country through my anchors. Anyway.
Now keep in mind, remember a few months ago, maybe sometime early this year, when the deportations started happening, that Mexico, when people were being deported to Mexico, there was an article that came out and said that these people who were American or were born in America or not born in America, who were immigrants, who were being deported back to Mexico, who were already sending remittances back or money back, they would get back home and the family would have spent the money already. So the money that they were sending back to their family for them to build houses, buy land, they were going back to nothing. And they weren't, the families that did buy homes and land and properties didn't want them to come back and stay with them. They were pretty much sending these people back to the place they were sending all this money to, and they were forced to be homeless. Virginia said Chinese toy soldiers. Yeah, I've seen a lot of the questions around, and the right wingers in particular, they kept asking the question, why would he allow that many 600,000 Chinese students? Why would you do that? Like, why would you allow that many? Now, when you talk about the Chinese students, typically when they're imported in like that, they're typically going to one of these high education schools. You're talking about Harvard and Yale and all this other stuff, Princeton. I wonder if that's part of the reason. Because if they got rid of the allowing people in with lower grades and they put the raising the standards pretty much back, does that mean they believe that there wouldn't be enough students for these schools to continue to make their money? Like Harvard and all these other places got big banks. They pretty much some of the wealthiest institutions on the planet. So yeah, you're going to allow a certain amount of students to get here to make sure we keep a certain number of students in our schools. Maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe it's all about just the money. Or maybe he's worked out some backdoor deal. Or even though the main country that Trump has been beefing with has been China. Because he sees them as a threat. So I don't know. Now I want to play this right here. I see this topic is growing more and more. I'm seeing this across social media and my timelines on YouTube and stuff a lot more in the last couple of weeks. And I'm gonna play some of this.
What's so bad about having African descent? My nigga, you're not Cherokee. Like this whole—
Okay, first of all, the term African American was first formalized in the 1980s as a political identity that was pushed on us through Jesse Jackson.
That's not true. The term African American has been around since the 1700s, maybe the late 1700s, early 1800s. African American is not a new term.
The term African American lumps all black people in America into one group regardless of their family ties, lineage, or ties to this land. So by calling ourselves African American, it erases the fact that most of our ancestors were already here in America before the slave trade narrative. Foundational Black American, or FBA, equals lineage, not just skin color.
Another thing I found, and Virginia says all the above, possibly, that's probably all of it. Me and Trev, we said this on this channel like 4 years ago. there are three groups in America. There are the people that came from West Africa, whether that be through slaves or just immigration. Yes, there were black people immigrating to the United States that weren't slaves from West Africa all the way back to the 1700s. It was the people that came from, the black people that came from Europe during the race wars that happened. And there were already, quote unquote, black people here on the east coast of America. Not to be mistaken for the Mongoloids on the west coast for the most part. Every description we've seen from these so-called travelers back then, when they talk about the people they found on the east coast, they all say they were dark-skinned or dark-skinned Ethiopian-like people. And even when you look at the Bible, the term Ethiopian is typically used for people of a certain, not necessarily skin tone, but a certain look to them. It doesn't mean an actual Ethiopian person or a light-skinned person or a dark-skinned person. It's normally a person who is the Ethiopian look. It ain't just Ethiopians that have that look. So they refer to the East Coast people as Ethiopian-like. I don't know why it seems so crazy if you believe that black people are the original and you believe that black people were already in every place, why is it so hard for people to understand that not all black people in America come from the same stock? That it shouldn't be that hard for some people to understand.
Refers specifically to the descendants of the people who was here before, during, and the Reconstruction of America. Basically, the foundation of America. Literally, those who built the foundation of the U.S. That foundational part acknowledge our ancestors who fought in the Civil War, who fought in the Civil Rights Movement, who built institutions, architecture, agriculture, music, industries that shaped America today. Most of our ancestors were indigenous to this land.
Now, see, another thing I noticed is the FBA thing is starting to turn into this. I'm starting to see more of these we're Native American people claim. I've seen a lot more of these FBA people are starting to claim this indigenous belief. They don't believe that any black Americans or any black people in America came from West Africa. None of them were slaves. The whole slave narrative is a lie. Obviously, most of them do not believe that there were black people in Europe during the Middle Ages or whatever, but it's always some point extreme element comes in and it causes fragmentation to something that might have been able to grow further. I'm not saying this is going to completely break it down, but it's crazy how that always pops up. Virginia says everywhere in Zoe Williams. Exactly. We were everywhere. Now I want to show this next person. If you've been on YouTube the last 15, 20 years, on the internet, should I say, and you've been into any type of study on like Illuminati, Prince Hall, Masons, Morse science, a Hotep, if you've been researching pro-black stuff, NOI, anything you could think of, you research any of this stuff and try to get into this idea of pro-black mindset or pro-Pan-African, whatever, you know the name Cy Netter. He's been around a long time. You've seen at least one of you. If you know Polite, if you know any of those dudes, whether you want to call them scammers or not, you've seen one of his videos. He's an ardent Pan-Africanist. But even though I feel like I would call him more like a black nationalist, the way he speaks about Africans, but that's besides the point. He has now come out and said now that he's Native American. Let me show y'all this here.
Mother's brother. Remember, I always used to tell everybody that I have a cousin who's a pastor, and I have an uncle who's a minister, who's a pastor, who's all of that, you know. And as he was on the pulpit teaching, putting his sister, my mother, to rest, he started talking about the history. And I was blown away, man. He was talking about the history. And me and 10 Toes Down looked at each other and we couldn't believe it. We just looked at each other like, did he just say that? And 10 Toes Down was like, yes, he said that. And I was like, wow. So I said, I gotta interview Uncle Richard when he get off the podium, when we get outside. I got to do a quick short clip. I need to know more about this. So he started talking about my grandfather, his father. and my mother's father, their father. And he started talking about how they're from the Shinnecock tribe. And I was like, what? I was blown away. I couldn't believe I was listening to that. As we was talking outside, I was like, Uncle Richard, can you say that again, what you said in there? And how come y'all never taught us this history? Come to find out, his whole side of the fence. See, you know, what it is, I'm going to tell you like this, and I know it's not just me, but what it is that we all don't come together. Family don't really come together a lot. Some do. Only when things happen, only when bad things may happen, that's when we all come out together. You know what I'm saying? And that's when I got up to the pulpit and I talked about that. When he said, do anybody have anything to say? I got up and I spoke about that. And I talked about, I said, look at y'all, look at the family, man. Our grandchildren don't even know your side of the family. They don't even know they cousins.
So that's all I need to show. This was a big, the fact that Side Netter, now, I'm not going to say he's a con artist or a scammer or nothing. He's had some around him. So I don't know if he's jumping on a bandwagon of something that, because he's had people on his platform before that have said that we are native. And he always debate them, have other people debate him and yada, yada, yada. So he has his own point of view. He debates against that belief. So it's hard for me to, but it seems it should be impossible for, at his age, for him to just now find out about this. But then I realized that in my own family, there are certain things I've been searching for and trying to find that I can't find because we just, at some point in your lineage, sometimes it just disconnects. People get missing, files got missing, people weren't close to certain sides of the families, and you just grew apart over decades, and now you don't know nobody over there. But this was crazy. Virginia said, I saw this other day, regarding Sonetta. What? Yeah. And this is a Pan-Africanist that found this out. And I wonder how much this shook his ideology, if this is true. I want to show this here. Because I've talked about the Jesuits before. And how these people are like the CIA of the Catholic Church. How they have way more influence over certain world events than a lot of people realize, right? And there's a Jesuit letter where they refer to Indians as Negroes. And we've seen this in American files. If you search up long enough in some of your family trees, you might find somebody with the name with the term Indian next to their name. And then you'll see another. You see one census, it may say they're Indian. And then you see another census and they call them Negro or Black. I want to share this. This was a Jesuit letter. We were taught that Black people from Africa are as slaves, that the Red Indians was the true Native American, that the white people took Black slaves to Africa and stole the land from the Red Indians. This story is nothing but a gigantic fiction, a novel made up by white historians to deceive the masses about the original history of people of the Americas. Now, I don't follow the ideology of slavery didn't happen. I think there's enough proof to say it did happen, definitely. But I want to show this right here, though. Hold on. Now, I want to translate this. How do I translate this? Hold on, y'all. I'm sorry. There we go. This is a book called The Monuments of Brazil. I saw this on social media, and it was interesting to me. So let me just hold on. Let me just show y'all this. If I can just come on, thing. But I want this thing that referred to Negroes in Brazil, or Indians in Brazil, as Negroes, and said that there were no Africans in Brazil at the time. I ain't better show this. I'm trying to translate it, but for some reason it's not letting me. Hold on. It's not letting me. try it this way. Here we go. Got it. Sorry, hold on. All right. Let me show this. Now in this it says, these people of the land were the Portuguese and their children who were already living there when the expedition arrived. Navarro did not yet know, nor could he learn the language of the land to be able to preach to the Indians. Black women, that is, Indian women. There were no black women or Africans in Baja yet. At few lines below, the Indians of the land are named. So it was referring to black women as Indian women. And it lets you know there were no Africans in Brazil at that time. So the native, it's definitely not a situation where all black Americans in this country come from Native Americans. Actually, that's not, or actually Native Americans. That's not what it is. It's a lot more than people think, but it's not nearly all. The bulk, I would say, came from West Africa, I believe. Because a lot of the Native Americans, the original Native Americans that were here, were obviously killed off. And now when you see those Mongol Native Americans from the West Coast, typically, those are the ones that came over the Bering Strait from Mongolia. That's why they consider Mexicans their brothers, and that's why the Chinese refer to Native Americans in America as gold people or yellow people, like them. Virginia says the slave trade did happen, but as we're finding out, not to all so-called black people. More incentive to do your lineage. Were you enslaved, or did you enslave? That's true. Also, another thing, I was looking, I found this, I saw a person, Chronicles of Judy, y'all probably know him. Years ago, he did a video where he showed a newspaper clipping from a newspaper from like, I want to say the 1800s, some mid to early 1800s. Maybe even 1700s. It was a very, very old newspaper clipping. And in the newspaper clipping, it referred to an quote unquote a Negro man from Africa. That's what it called him, a Negro man from Africa. And they referred to him as a Hebrew. They call him a Negro Hebrew from West Africa. And in this newspaper clipping, it was describing him being lost. He came to this country. He lost something, and now he's trying to find his way back to West Africa, back home. But these newspaper, which was definitely by Caucasian people in America, referred to this Negro man as a Hebrew Negro from West Africa. It's a lot more, when you go into the real lineage, it goes a lot deeper than people think. But anyway, speaking of lineage, this is the last tab I'm going to, and then I'm going to get up out of here. Hopefully next week I can be back on schedule next week. But here we go. I should go here. Hold on. Black Scots trending on TikTok. African Americans excited to learn they exist. I didn't really see the whole learn they exist. I thought people were surprised that there were dark-skinned people in Scotland that spoke like they're from Scotland. Not that there were African or Caribbean or black people in Scotland. It's that he had the accent, that he was born and raised there. That was what the surprise was. But I want to show this. And unfortunately, this quickly turned into a diaspora war. Because this guy went viral. Black Americans found his TikTok, made him viral. And then you seen a bunch of people from other countries getting into the comment section and saying, hey, make sure you tell them you're Nigerian. Make sure you tell them you're West African or Caribbean, because they'll be xenophobic to you. Now, in this interview he did with Roy Woods, he himself made sure to separate himself and his identity from those people. I'm going to play it.
Dance up here, like, do you know what? Like, if I said to you, where the fans at? Would you know what that means? I don't know what that means. Be glad you don't. Because they will pull out all the fans.
Oh, born in a barn doesn't make it a horse. My dad's side, West Africa, shout out GA. And then Barbados from my mum, home with Rihanna. If you know, you know. So that is my background, that's my heritage. I'm proud of both those sides. I've been to both of these countries many times. But the one comment they always come with, and I hate this saying, they're like, a horse
Hold on.
population is 5.5 million.
All right, here we go.
You can't be black and Scottish. You're not 17th generation. Your mum and dad weren't on Braveheart, like things like that. So,
wait, white people can check your genealogy like that?
Oh, all the time. As currently, Scottish population is 5.5 million.
Whole country, 5.5.
5.5 million.
Okay.
And 2% of that are black. 2% not black Scottish. 2% of that is black.
You see that? He made sure to be specific. 2% of that is black, not black Scottish. There's a separation that he did there. There's a difference between being a black person in Scotland versus being a black Scottish person.
So we're counting black immigrants in that 2%.
Yeah. When I identify, I am black Scottish. Afro-Caribbean is my heritage, but my nationality, where I was born, raised, my culture, my humour is all Scottish.
So he's black Scottish like we're black American.
I love my black African side. I love my black Caribbean side. You say Caribbean.
What countries? Because they got to know what countries.
So, Ghana from my dad's side, West Africa, shout out to GA. And then Barbados from my mum, home of Rihanna. If you know, you know.
So, yeah, I saw that and I found it funny that he made sure to make that separation immediately, that he doesn't consider himself an immigrant, obviously. And then I saw the people from France and Germany and all the other places, these so-called black people in those places who were saying, can't wait for black Americans to find us so I can get my time to shine. Virginia says, isn't it interesting that the delineation has been going on since the 16th century, but now the American blacks want to everybody in the club get tipsy. I also find it funny how they've been telling us for the last 4 or 5 years or so that the reason why black American culture is so influential is because of imperialism of America, that they have exported our culture to everybody else and kind of forced it on them. But here we have a black Scottish dude who the reason why anybody know his face right now is because black Americans got in his comment section and made him lit. And then I see other people from, like I said, Germany and France who are hoping and making TikToks that black Americans find them to make them lit. So if black Americans aren't the one who make other people pop, then why is there's a billion black people outside of black America. There's only, 40, 50 million of us in here, in America. There's a billion on the continent. And there's other tens of millions in all these other countries. You shouldn't need black Americans to put on TikTok. You shouldn't need black Americans to put a light on something to make it popular. So what's the excuse now? What is the excuse that on TikTok, these black Americans on TikTok was able to make someone's platform grow this fast and go viral when they've been there? Everybody else apparently knew they was there already. Black Americans are the ignorant ones that didn't know that there was black Scottish people. But you never did anything to put a light on them until it was black Americans. But you know, main character syndrome. I want to play this now.
All right, a lot of you have questions about the black people in Scotland. You have questions, I have answers. Okay, jokes apart. They are African immigrants or Caribbean immigrants, okay? So these are like Nigerians or Jamaicans or Ghanaians, okay? Their parents, these are first generation immigrants. Their parents are from these countries. This is what immigration looks like, the same way you see Nigerian Americans, Nigerian British, Nigerian Italian, Nigerian Japanese. It's the same way you see Nigerian Scottish, Nigerian Irish, okay?
This is absolute lies. I'm going to tell you something. You Africans need to stop speaking on us Aborigines who were deported off of our lands in the British Isles. Stop speaking for our people.
So now you got the black Scottish people saying that they're indigenous. I remember a few years ago, me and Travis we was trying to find, because, you know, Black History Month in the UK is in August, October or something. I can't remember. And we were saying, where are the so-called black people? Because we know that there were black people in Europe for the last 600, 700, 800 years, 1,000 years, honestly. So why can't we find anybody who can trace their lineage from those lands? Why are all of them calling themselves immigrants and from other countries? Where are the black people that were already there? Somebody had to stay, right? We know a lot of them were bred out and killed. Somebody had to survive through that. So he's saying that his family is one of those people. The problem is people found out that he is a cosplayer and exposed his ass. Let me play this right here.
It was going on TikTok. How y'all doing? Check this out. That Air's a Great Britain dude. Now, he did mention he's from the United States or lives in the United States, right? And how he was talking shit, you would think he from Scottish and something, you know, change his voice and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is him right here.
You fake wannabe British Islanders.
Well, the Africans tagged me in a video of him, what he said back in 2021. And I want y'all to take a look at this.
So I'm really getting tired of hearing the black community slander white people for everything. What happened to us taking accountability of our community? Do you understand that we have black on black crime? We have all of these issues. Single mothers.
So this is the same dude that's calling himself Scottish now. In 2021, he attempted to be some type of right-wing grifter. Now he's faking like he's some Scottish dude.
Having children out of...
These people, man, it's crazy.
I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and I lived...
Y'all can make your own decision on that dude right there. But anyway, I understand people change, right? You know, I had a mindset years ago.
These people is crazy laughing. Imagine getting on social media, and we've seen this with dozens of people who try to build platforms on the right wing side. Me and Travis used to make jokes all the time on this channel. Hey man, if we just react to one Tomlin style video, we'll be up out of here. We'll get 100,000 views in 2 days, easily. All we gotta do is show our face and show us reacting to a video of Thomas Sal, and we'll get 100,000 views in 2 days on YouTube. So people been trying to build these platforms. In 2022, this man was attempting to do that. Now he's Scottish. Now he's an indigenous Scottish man who's going at the Africans after talking shit to black Americans, by the way. Now he's talking shit to the Africans, telling them to stay out of Scottish business. These people have an identity. That's another thing. When you have no ties to any culture, you have no shame cosplaying like that. You're just trying to get a buck on a social media. And that's also the problem with social media, has created these people who do anything for clicks and views. Anything. They don't care how silly they look. You have a digital footprint. People gonna find out what you were doing 4 or 5 years ago. It ain't that hard. It ain't that hard. I don't even have to look up your name no more. I can reverse image search a video or a picture. I can find out what you did. I can find your whole timeline on the internet since you've been on here. I don't need your name no more.
About certain stuff, and I changed. I grew as a person, but people like that, man, they that's how they is. That's how they is. Then what about black on black crime?
And he's still focused on. You shouldn't be worried about the dude trying to grift, man. They gonna say what he got to say. It shouldn't be your focus. The fact that the man is lying about his lineage was funny. Now I want to show this right here.
Correct. All these people did was be nice. And then you got Africans in the comments calling them immigrants. Oh, they're nothing but immigrants. They ain't nothing but first and second generation. But see, by doing that, you exposed your hand. Because when is it okay for these people to say we're black Scottish? What generation is it? Because I know when y'all come over here and y'all drop a baby, the first thing y'all baby say is, I'm black American.
Drop a baby. Virginia says, in my experience with Africans from nine of the 54 countries, they don't acknowledge Americans as Africans. Just Pan-Africans insist we from Africa. Well, yeah, when you get to the continental African, the one who just got here off the ship or off the plane, it's normally the second generation that starts to assimilate a little bit more into Black American culture and beliefs. Which is funny because the only demographic in America, I'm pretty sure I said this before, that don't force other groups, or at least don't force them anymore, to conform to their culture is Black Americans. If you from Jamaica or Nigeria, you can come right into the black neighborhood and open up a shop selling your food and your culture, and you'll get business, and nobody will chastise you and can not eat it and make you run out of it. They'll absolutely eat your food. If a non-Asian go into an Asian neighborhood and open up a restaurant, you ain't getting no business. No, whether it be Asian, Jewish, or any other, you're not getting any business. You can be Ethiopian. As Regina said, one Ethiopian man told me to study the 9th century of Ethiopia for some intel. What was he trying to tell you with that? Ethiopia is supposed to be the cradle of the world for a little while, and then they kind of changed that and decided it wasn't the center of the universe no more. But yeah, the only people that don't force people to assimilate anymore is black people. The only ones who kind of do it amongst black people is the children in school. When an Ethiopian or African or Caribbean kid is in school, they get picked on because they're different. And once they hit 18, 20, get into their 20s, they don't have to deal with it no more. So they can kind of have that dual identity. They can blend in with Black Americans while also retaining their cultural beliefs. Jen says, I think he was implying their country was great during that period of time. It depends on what you define as great. Because you let certain groups tell it they weren't doing nothing. And if you believe in certain if you believe in the Bible, then yeah, they were very powerful. If you don't, then they probably would consider them not doing nothing.
I'm African American. Well, I grew up in Black culture, and there's nothing else that I know. And I'm not cosplaying, you all. I was born in America. That's their favorite line. That's their favorite line. If I'm around only Black people, if I'm around your culture, of course I'm gonna absorb it. White people are around our culture. Do you see them acting like us?
Yeah, that's called Wiggers. You wrong about this one, sister. That's Wiggers. Same thing with Asians. We heard it when you go to New York, when you go to California, when you go to places in Texas, Florida, and you meet these other these other races, they do take on some of the mannerisms, the way they speak. They definitely take things from Black Americans.
Do you see Asian immigrants when they come here? Do you see them acting like us? No, you don't have to act like us. You could appreciate your own culture, dress like you dress like, bro.
See, this is what we do when we push away the idea of somebody assimilating into your culture, which is why, like I said earlier, our culture is viewed as non-existent, not because it doesn't exist, but because it's so weakened, because we hold no standards. You can come in our community, sell your own food, sell your own clothing, and we won't chastise it at all. We won't force you to assimilate to us. We'll do what not get respected. It's bad. All right, this is the last thing I'm gonna talk about right here. This is the last thing I'm gonna get into. Let me show this right here. This was controversial a few weeks ago. Does Sydney Sweeney's American Eagle Great Jeans campaign mark a shift for ads? Oh man, y'all seen that commercial of her in the commercial saying, blue jeans, jeans are identifier of your parentage, your lineage, yada yada yada, and my eyes are blue. People saw it as a whistle, a dog whistle, saying that her jeans were pure. Blue eyes, blonde hair. Oh, this is pure jeans right here. And was it that? Probably. But why would y'all care? Why do y'all care about these people and what they view of you, what they think of you? I don't understand. Mark Gordon says, I think their frustration is that we don't show an interest in imitating their cultures. That's true. We've heard that. We've seen that. I remember when a Nigerian dude was going back and forth. I was going back and forth with a Nigerian dude about this was years ago. I was going back and forth with a Nigerian dude, and he said to me, y'all don't even appreciate Afro beats. Now, keep in mind, the conversation was about something way more serious. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was about something serious. And he replied to me with, y'all don't even like Afrobeat. I'm like, what? What they got to do with the conversation? They think it's our job to put their music on to a bigger platform. But yeah. So this campaign came out. It made a lot of people mad. It was considered controversial because she was saying her jeans were pure and it was a dog whistle. And so the people, unfortunately, who was put at the front of this were obviously Black women. Because you got this white woman in a commercial, once again, through her culture, making herself the standard. And so it led to a whole bunch of people making these think pieces and crying out and, all this other stuff. And then obviously it's a moneymaker. Because the second I saw this commercial, I already knew how the opposing companies were going to react. They're going to make a whole campaign about responding to this ad. Matter of fact, should I show it? Let me. Yeah, this.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
That made people mad, by the way. And at some point, and maybe I'm not the right person to do it, we're going to have to address the extreme low ethnic self-esteem, the extreme low self-esteem amongst our ethnicity, among Black women. It got to address. Maybe it's not today. Maybe I'm not the right person. Maybe it's somebody who's far more learned, educated on the topic can talk about. But it's so bad now that companies are able to make money off of the low self-esteem that we see unfortunately so many Black women have, as far as how our race is viewed in the dating market. We just saw what's her name? Taylor Swift got engaged to the football player, Travis Kelce. It was embarrassing to see some Black women get on social media and write think pieces. I'm not saying these were Black American women, because unfortunately online it don't matter. Online it don't matter. Writing think pieces about not being quote unquote good enough for certain. It's just like, stop. This is crazy. So in response to this commercial, like I said, I need to make some money. Made this commercial. Anima says digital blackface did think pieces. Nah, we ain't letting you get away with that one. It wasn't just fake Black people. It wasn't just immigrants. We got to call it out, Honorable. Mark said maybe it's the low self-esteem of white American culture. Well, I've been talking about that all episode. Oh, that's what dealing with the Smithsonian the way it is doing that. Hold on. All right, we should be good now. Digital blackface, I don't think it's just that. I think there's more than just immigrants and non-white, non-blacks doing those think pieces. But Mark, what I was saying is, yes, I've been talking about the low self-esteem of white American culture all episode. That's what Trump is doing with the Smithsonian. That's what he's doing with all these things he's passing with Roe v. Wade. That's what he was doing with threatening the Board of Education. All of this is about the low esteem of their culture and their demographic, because their numbers are low. They ain't getting married. They're aborting their kids. That's why they got to bring in immigrants for the workforce to keep the economy going. All that's about their low esteem. We also got to address our own. Anima says, stop putting that low self-esteem narrative on an entire people group because of your algorithm. All right, Honorable, what did you see on your algorithm? When that commercial came out, what did you see on your algorithm? Because I saw people saying this is why we care about this. Who cares? This is clearly a dog whistle for white people. Who cares? But I also saw the opposite. Adama says, you got to call out algorithm. I didn't see none of that on none of that mess. Well, okay, I'll take your word for it, but I'm letting you know it was there. And I'm not saying the entire demographic. That's why I said the word some. Nowhere near the majority. It's the internet. Of course, it wasn't the majority, but it was enough to where it was just like, you can't just count who you see it from. You have to see the reaction to it. That's what I was saying. Matter of fact, let me show this last thing, and then we'll get out of here. I'm gonna mute it because, so they made sure in this Gap commercial, in response to whatchamacallit, they made sure to put Asian of all colors, the Indians and all this stuff. They made sure to put the blacks. They made sure to put all the races you can think of. Well, really Asian, black, and white. Spanish, in response to that other commercial. And this is what I was saying. I'm surprised that they didn't center the commercial around black women, only because that was even the people who weren't black who was making it a topic, they were using the example of black women. So like I said, not all black women were talking about it, but the people who weren't even black were using the example of black people. It was crazy. Jenny says, informative show as usual, Duke. Thanks. Have a good inning, everyone, to start first tomorrow on Monday. Appreciate you. for coming through, Regina. Because, yeah, I'm about to get out of here, too. How long is this? Yeah, I said about 2 hours. Got the 155. That's good enough for here. Next week, I should be back on schedule. Saturday, 2:15 as always. Although I've been thinking about moving that up a little bit. Moving it from 2:15 to like earlier in the day or maybe later at night. I don't know. Mark says maybe we create our own blue jeans. That would be the best thing to do. The same reason why we had our own magazine, to make sure we put black women and their beauty standards that we have on front and center. You know, like the Essence Existence and Jet Magazine. We made sure to create those magazines to make sure we tell black women how beautiful they are without them relying on, you know, other media. We got to make sure we tell our own daughters that they're pretty, and I'll tell our sons the things to empower them as well. Honorable said earlier would be good. I might try that out. We'll see. I'm not sure I'm gonna do that next week, but we'll see. But anyway, man, thank y'all for coming through for another episode. Been gone for a while, but now I'm back. I should be back on schedule, like I said, next week, Saturday. We'll see what time that is when I put up the community post. Make sure you check the community post whenever something's going on. If you don't see me live, I'll make sure I update there. And as always, man, be sure to like it on your way out. Subscribe if you're not. Share it if you can. And always, y'all be safe. All praise to the Most High. And peace, man.